Hello. This week's parsha starts off with the pasuk that says, "Ele Pikudei HaMishkan, Mishkan HaEdut, Asher Pukad Al Pi Moshe, Avodat HaLeviim, B'yad Itamar ben Aaron HaKohen." So what it means is these are the accountings of the Mishkan of testimony, that Moshe took an accounting of all the work of the Leviim that was done at the hand of Itamar, the son of Aaron, the Kohen. Now this word, Pikudei, is just screaming out at us to recognize from the first time where we see this language of redemption in Parshat Vayechi, when Yosef is about to die and he tells his brothers that God will, Pakod Yifkod, surely remember them and take them out of Mitzrayim. And then he says again that when God surely remembers you, Pakod Yifkod, and takes you out of Mitzrayim, take my bones with you. And then the next time that we see this language with that root word of Pakad is when Moshe sees the burning bush, and God is first telling him that he's appointing him to be the redeemer of the people, to take them out of Egypt. And he says that I surely remembered, he uses the same root word, pakad, the people, to take them out. And a few pasukim later in the same conversation, he says, and the women shall take the gold and the silver and the clothing and adorn their children, and you should hightail it out of Egypt. And then when Moshe and Aaron go to the elders and they want to convince them to follow them out of Egypt, it is this language, this pakod yifkod that they use, that convinces them that they will indeed listen and follow them out of the land of Egypt. And so, as we know, God does redeem them. And then we don't see this word again until here. So what is it trying to tell us here? And the lesson I think that it's trying to say is that, sure, God can pluck us out of Egypt. He can take the people physically and redeem them by taking them out of the situation that they were in. But spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, redemption cannot be done by anyone else, not even God. And that is something that the people have to do the work themselves. And this is represented by the clothing that the women took from their neighbors. Now, the gold and the silver and the clothing that they took from their neighbors was something that they had earned by their blood, sweat, tears, everything that all the work they did, they earned these materials. And it represents much more than just gold and silver and clothing. It represents all the hard work that they did in Egypt. Now, why did they have to do all that hard work in Egypt? And we're thrown back again to Yosef, who started with this language of redemption, because we know that the reason why they were down there is only because of the hatred and the jealousy of the brothers was he sold down into Egypt, and they ended up in Egypt because they didn't ever rectify and learn how to live harmoniously with one another. And it wasn't until after all the difficulties that they went through in Egypt did they learn that each person is exceedingly valuable, and not to mistreat the other, and not to do injustices that they wouldn't want done to themselves. It took this servitude for them to have a greater understanding of individual worth, of the worth of their brother, of the worth of them coming together as a community. And all these years that they worked were represented in those gold and the silver and the materials that they earned through learning these lessons. And when they dedicated it to the Mishkan, we know that in the foundation they all had to give an equal amount, representing the fact that they all have an equal part to play in God's plan. And then after that, people were able to give as their heart inspired them in terms of materials and the creativity that God endowed them with. So it represents the equality of each individual, but yet that room to expand and express individuality while accepting the other. And that's why it's called the Mishkan Ha'edut, the Mishkan of testimony, that testified to the redemption, not just the redemption that God took them out of Mitzrayim, but their own redemption. And that is represented in those materials. And those materials were dedicated into the house of God because now that they had done that work and they understood the worth of the individual, of their brothers, of the community, and they could work together, only then could God's presence rest amongst us. And that is what the material represents, and that is why they could finally now build the Mishkan to house the Shekhinah of Hashem. Shabbat Shalom.